Can sniffing other people's sweat make you more charismatic and improve your social skills? Well, that's the latest gobbledygook nonsense that's come out of academia. And today I'm looking at a study entitled Odors from Other People's Sweat Can Help Treat Social Anxiety. Is this true? Can sniffing sweat make you more charismatic, more outgoing, more able to navigate social situations? Let's find out. The source is the European Psychiatric Association. And the summary of this study, it says, exposure to another person's bodily odors extracted from sweat can help boost therapies for social anxiety. A group of European researchers have shown that exposure to human odors might be used to boost treatment for some mental health problems. Researchers were able to show that social anxiety was reduced when patients underwent mindfulness therapy while exposed to human chemosignals, or what we commonly refer to as body odor, obtained from underarm sweat from volunteers. Lead researcher Elisa Vigna in Stockholm said, our state of mind causes us to produce molecules in sweat which communicate our emotional state and produce corresponding responses in the receivers. The results of our preliminary study show that combining these chemosignals with mindfulness therapy seems to produce better results in treating social anxiety than can be achieved by mindfulness alone. The study involved collecting sweat from volunteers and then exposing patients to chemosignals extracted from these sweat samples while they were being treated for social anxiety. Ms. Vigna continued, we found that individuals who undertook one treatment session of mindfulness, together with being exposed to body odors, showed about 39% reduction in anxiety scores. For comparison, the control group receiving only mindfulness saw a 17% reduction in anxiety after one treatment session. We're hopeful that this may lead to a new way of helping people with social anxiety disorder. For example, increasing the effectiveness of standalone interventions, such as meditation apps, or provide an additional opportunity for those who don't respond to current treatment. However, we caution this is a proof of concept study, which is why we are now embarking on a bigger study to confirm the findings. The researchers hope that if they can identify and isolate the molecules which are causing the effects seen in the study, then therapeutic use will become easier. This work is part of the EU-funded Horizon 2020 Project Potion, which stands for Promoting Social Interaction Through Emotional Body Odors. Well, there you have it, folks. You can make a potion out of sweat, and soon you'll be able to sniff or ingest this magic potion that, in conjunction with mindfulness therapy, will result in you being a social powerhouse, a wallflower no more. Simply sniff some fucking sweat and out you go into the world to mingle at the party, to network at the event, to meet the girl of your dreams or the guy of your dreams, to get that promotion, navigate the office politics. It was all under here the entire time. Now, as somebody who has been teaching social skills live and in situations where I go out every weekend and I have to demonstrate these things on the spot when prompted, I have to be able to pass these skills onto others over a very short time frame, and I'm doing this in the real world where things are happening dynamically all over. Typically, when I read one of these studies, I just, again, immediately dismiss it as hogwash. Because for me, at least, it feeds into what I might call magic pill thinking. And magic pill thinking is very prevalent. This sort of thinking where I just want, and it's prevalent in fitness, it's prevalent in finance. You know, meme stonks. I'm simply going to dump all my money into this thing I read on social media, this security I read on social media, and it's going to shoot to the moon and make me rich. Fitness. I'll simply take these pills or inject myself with these compounds. No work required. I'll simply beef up and I'll be the aesthetic king of my fantasies. Look, the real world is much, much different. And I'm not, this isn't to say that this study is inaccurate or they're trying to mislead people or anything like that. However, somebody who sees this is like, oh, perhaps one day I can take this sweat pill. Again, they're falling prey to that trap of magic pill thinking. You know, and most of the studies that I've read and the books that I've read about charisma and charismatic communication and social interaction are just overly academic. And this is the issue with this particular area, conversational skill and charisma, it really hasn't had a clear vocabulary for talking about the issues surrounding the techniques involved in getting better at this stuff. Again, most of the books you read about charisma and conversation are very hokey, very surface level things like make strong eye contact, make sure the webs of your thumbs touch together when you do a handshake. It's just sort of very hokey or overly academic, where it's very clear that the authors haven't had very much experience in the way of real, actual human interactions, either firsthand or with teaching it. Over the years, as I've researched all of this stuff, both in the field and as well as academically, personally, I found a lot of the theories surrounding this stuff to simply be these sort of fascinating abstractions, right? A lot of these subjective and abstract ideas or these lab-grown studies that aren't readily related to or even concerned with, for that matter, pragmatic reality. And for most people, these theories and these studies, they rarely move beyond the status of intellectual exercises, right? Oh, that's an interesting thing to think about. They're not going to go out and they're not really super applicable to reality. Now, a lot of people will say, well, Jeff, these are controlled, peer-reviewed studies. And that's proof to me. That's proof that these studies about how attraction works and how human interest works and psychology works and communication works in practice, it's like, yeah, what you're referring to is anecdotal. You're talking about your own personal experience. And again, your personal experience is not going to apply to everyone's. Now, is my experience anecdotal? Yeah, maybe. However, you could say that. However, let's take this into consideration. Conservatively, if you look at all of the interactions I've had with people over the years, over the past 20 years of teaching this, I've probably introduced myself to 30,000 strangers. And that's probably being a bit conservative. I mean, think about it. That's a lot. 30,000. That's the size of a basketball arena. You could begin to argue that that is a large enough sample that you can start to see statistically relevant patterns emerge, provided you're intelligent enough to reflect on those and start to, again, pick out, okay, these types of things tend to garner good reactions in social interactions. These types of things tend to be met with disgust or pity or concern or revulsion or whatever. These things tend to work, these things don't. Again, you tend to see certain types of situations come up. And I've applied, like a Rubik's Cube, I've tried to apply many different solutions, see which ones work, see which ones didn't work, see which ones tended to work, et cetera, et cetera. So again, based on all of that experience, I believe that I've developed with both my live programs as well as my mentoring, a very useful and unique way for you to isolate and analyze for yourself the many components of charisma, and then to go further, to synthesize them into actually learning how to have more successful interactions and thereby make powerful business and social connections. It's all about helping you discover your true self. This is for anyone that's interested in power, love, freedom, play, social interaction, connection, self-awareness, growth. We can sit around and intellectualize and sniff sweat all day long, but it ain't gonna mean shit unless you're able to actually roll around with the types of energy uses and the types of interactions that you fear. Without direct experience in the real world, without direct experience of these exercises that we do in my mentoring, without direct experience of going out and getting coached and getting feedback in the field, like as we do in the in-field programs, all of this remains in the realm of philosophy. It's like, sure, it might be inspiring, accurate, significant, but it's not going to have any living energy. And that's why things like coaching and mentoring are so important, because you're not only getting the system, but you're getting that accountability and that guidance. You've got to become aware of the types of energy uses that you fear. These fears are very often carefully hidden. Why? Out of sight, out of mind. Very often you've held these interference and control patterns that are preventing you from expressing yourself freely. You've held them to be necessary for your protection for so long that most of the time they're now below your threshold of awareness. These can, however, be identified. And when you do put them into play, it becomes this process of release, and then expansion, and ultimately more powerful connection, more powerful communication, more powerful expression. Now, when I say these energy uses that you fear, what does that mean? Well, it might be the fear of being boring or doing too much or seeming ridiculous or corny or phony or ugly or exposing a part of yourself or your mind or the way you think that maybe you're ashamed of. And maybe after even, this is another weird problem, maybe even after successfully doing it, now there's a fear that you won't be able to do it again. So again, there are many different fears that you have surrounding social interaction and communication. You want to explore them all. And as each fear is sort of dragged into the light, it's then revealed for the illusion that it is. Look, sweat, meditation, these things are great, but you got to understand, the fear will always be there. The fear of meeting new people will always be there because you never know how they're going to react. There's an uncertainty element, right? You're very aware of being observed when you meet someone for the first time and therefore of being judged. So that fear is always going to be there. If you wait for it to go away, you'll never do it. Furthermore, the cumulative sense of powerlessness that comes from being controlled by that fear over time, to me, that's far more frightening than just pushing through the fears. The only way that you can actually do this is to do the thing that you fear. And once you do that, the fear is exposed for the illusion that it is. But it's paramount that as you do this, you maintain a non-judgmental frame. And that's what I strive to do on my programs, is remind you that when you're practicing this stuff, you can't judge yourself. You can't, right? You gotta be confident in who you are, and you gotta be willing to explore, right? In that non-judgmental space, that's where you can take risks. That's where you can walk through the fear and you can make that jump into the unknown where all the growth happens. The fundamental purpose of charisma is what? It's to give the people that we meet a special experience, an almost consciousness expanding interaction with higher energies. So enough, all right? Enough of the theory, enough of the over-analytical bullshit. It's time to get real and learn how to socialize for real from one of the most highly experienced coaches on the planet. My Infield Bootcamp program, this gives you the chance to get out of your comfort zone and practice these things, practice socializing in real world settings under the guidance of a seasoned 20-year professional. So no more reading about socializing in books, no more watching these damn lectures online, and certainly no smelling people's fucking sweat, all right? It's time to get outside, touch grass, okay, and let's see some real results on how to confidently approach strangers, how to strike up conversations, how to create meaningful connections in a very short time. So take action, start living your best life. I'm traveling all over the world, I'm doing these things, running these programs. You can hit the link in the description, check out my schedule, and apply today. This is Jeffy, and I'll see you next time.